When Burnham arrived in Manila during 1905, he saw potential with the Pearl of the Orient, the city of Manila. He stayed only for 6 weeks, but it was enough for him to see what Manila can be. A unified city equal to the greatest of the Western world, with the unparalleled and priceless addition of a tropical setting. More than a century has passed after Burnham created the master plan for the development of Manila, and unfortunately, his plan never came into fruition. The version of Manila we are faced with couldn't be any more different from the world-class city Burnham saw. For this project, our task was to redesign the Manila City Hall area based on the vision of Burnham. Here's how it went.
Our site is located right at the heart of Manila, beside the walls of Intramuros. Has been through centuries of Philippine history, which includes Spanish, American, and Japanese occupation. History that is written on the walls of Intramuros, Jones Bridge, and other heritage buildings. Other than having historical significance, this area also serves as the civic center of Manila, where multiple buildings are located, such as the Manila City Hall, Post Office, former GSIS building, the Metropolitan Theater, and more.
Although it is a government center, there is currently a lack of importance given towards these government buildings, like the large imposing SM Manila at the center dwarfing the Manila City Hall. On the northeast side is San Miguel, which is a high-density residential area that is mostly occupied by Islamic communities, as they have two mosques on the area, one of which is the Golden Mosque north of our site. Adjacent to the area is the Muslim town just a few blocks north of it. The two areas are separated by the Pasig River, which is an important part in Burnham's vision, but currently feels disconnected from the site due to high-rise developments established at the riverside. The west part of the site is mostly a large open space which used to be the moat surrounding Intramuros, until Burnham decided to have it filled back up to prevent the spread of malaria, and is now being occupied by the Intramuros Golf Club.
Other than the golf course, the site shows a clear lack of green space. The existing green spaces near the post office and the Metropolitan Theater are often unmaintained and used as storage space. There is also a lack of parking space, resulting in people parking on the streets and sidewalks, making cars take over the space meant for humans. This results in our next problem, which is walkability. The area has created a hostile environment for people to walk around, resulting in more vehicular traffic. This discourages people from walking from this area to Intramuros, or anywhere for that matter. This can be noticed not only in our site but also in the rest of Manila. Studying how Burnham's City Beautiful movement started, we noticed that the state of Manila is almost similar to how it was then. Old cities were getting ugly, congested, dirty, and unsafe until the movement reformed the philosophy of urban planning in the 1890s and the 1900s, introducing beautification and big green expanse, a semi-utopian city that's more livable and orderly. With the philosophy of Burnham, we designed Manila with the following design principles. Create a government center that imposes a figure of authority for the civic offices. Put the important buildings on a pedestal where people can see it, focusing on vistas. Encourage walkability by reducing the need for cars and introduce a more people-centric mode of transportation. Design with respect to history and culture of the city, and revive the Pasig River and utilize it for transportation. These are the principles that guided us in designing our interpretation of Burnham's vision for Manila. Green spaces for the people have been cut out of the cityscape, and all we have left is the last lawn of Manila, the Arcds Park. Because of that, we wanted to expand this lawn into a city model prototype based on the principles of Burnham and people-centric urban design. Taking back the land we lost to cars, the major consequence of modernization of cities. First, we cleared out the existing insignificant buildings that are dwarfing the Manila City Hall. leaving only the heritage building to work with, a tabula rasa or a clean slate. From that, we created zonings of the dominant types of buildings inside it. These zones relate to each other, which we'll explain further.
The residential zone was placed away from Antonio Villegas Street, which can be a real noise problem. It's also placed near the river to give the users a waterfront. Same goes to the San Miguel side. On the edge is also a residential zone, but is geared more towards mid-rise affordable housing. Beside it are commercial/office buildings that will act as a buffer from the highway. Government zones are placed right around the City Hall to have it as an anchor for all municipal buildings. On the east side of the government zone is the commercial area so that people can shop after conducting their businesses with the City Hall. Commercial spaces are adjacent to the residential to make it more convenient to shop, yet it is isolated to limit noise and to provide privacy for the residents. In between both of them is a chapel. We also placed a new YMCA above the residential area to make a recreational space which allows people to be more active.
To provide education for the locals, an institutional building is placed right on the center of the San Miguel area, fronting the mosque along the river. To provide livelihood to the residents, a small market is placed north of the residential area, close enough to the Quiapo and Quinta markets, while being far enough from the residential area to reduce noise. The old post office is converted into a hotel to give it a chance at a second life, since posts are slowly becoming obsolete because of modernization. Behind the hotel is a waterfront which can be used for the hotel's alfresco dining by the river. Because maintaining the golf course does more harm than good for the soil, we decided to repurpose the area as a destination where people can appreciate the walls of Intramuros, converting it into a garden that romanticizes the walls, similar to how ancient fortresses are given importance around the world, inviting tourists and locals to a peaceful ambience along the ponds. To connect Intramuros to Ermita, we did land reclamation, but instead of building on top of water, we're taking back lost space taken by roads. This is done by submerging the roads into the ground and building a mound over it in areas where human traffic is anticipated to cross.
Now that the major areas of the plan have been established, we filled the spaces in between with more specific programs. In between the market and the residential area of San Miguel is an agricultural area where multiple small greenhouses are built. This will create halal food production that will supply the local markets in the area, especially the one in the north side. Between this and the hotel will be an agri-tourism focused tower that acts as a viewing deck overseeing the entire site. Its podium also doubles as a ferry station, following Burnham's vision of revitalizing the river by using it as a mode of transportation. In between the commercial spaces is a large open area which may also act as a function area for different kinds of events. The same goes for the plaza in the government zone. However, this one will be used more on City Hall related activities. The current mayor, Isko Moreno, has stressed about the City Hall that was becoming very congested and pointed out that relocation may become necessary. Instead of this, we decongested the City Hall by taking out some offices to other buildings. These are the buildings found on the east of the City Hall, which are medical offices, courtrooms, and social welfare offices. By bringing these offices outside, we create a municipal plaza where people can roam freely while conducting their business with the City Hall, instead of having everything inside of one building. The old GSIS building was repurposed to be a public library and a courtroom building, being located in the intersection of the government, recreational, institutional, and residential areas. The plaza in the middle will also act as a multi-purpose area for government activities, and the other government buildings like the COMELEC, Civil Service, and Maynilad are relocated above the GSIS building.
In the commercial area, we created a more porous form for a large mall, replacing the large mass of the current SM Manila. By subtracting some volume, it creates more edges, which is where people would likely stay in due to what's known as the edge effect. This also creates space for more plazas, which can be used during various events. The residential area is split up by the main pedestrian route leading up to the Araceras and the cultural park. The winding roads are curved in such a way that it fits how humans travel. It was divided into 60-meter radius blocks for efficient walking distance, breaking down the long stretches. Following our principle of maintaining vistas, we intervened one of those cuts to create a line of sight from the chapel to the mosque, creating a relationship between the two religious figures. The next step is making the blocks more porous to allow activity flowing in and out of it. We then applied a concept called urban acupuncture, which restores energy and general well-being through interventions on strategic points. Creating pocket gardens in between structures where it can be too urbanized in a sense. This results with mini green spaces formed on every block so that nature would be right outside your doorstep. To develop it more, we took a closer look at the viewable. Here we noticed that it has a shading device known as an awning. By taking that and exploring how it can be applied, we were able to create a folding facade that shields its users from direct sunlight, while also providing shade for people in front of it. The same process was used in the other residential zone in the San Miguel area. The mosque that was in the area was relocated to the riverside to further revive the Pasig River. This also allows for west-facing mosque without being too intrusive with the rest of the site. Other than facing the buildings to the Pasig River, people are invited to the river by protruding a riverside park hovering over the water, creating a better experience while also creating more room for different activities. The edge of the riverside is then lowered down to the water level to make the people feel as though they're just walking beside it. This works with the overhead park to act as a shade for the people below.
As you may have noticed, each zone of the site has a nearby park. When connected together, it forms a large radial park along the perimeter of the city. While Burnham used radial roads for their efficiency in traffic, we incorporated that idea into a more human-centric city. This radial park will act as the main circulation space for pedestrians, making people the priority instead of vehicles. The radial park was designed with different typologies, with experiences and activities that are specific to its location in the plan. Starting with the Municipal Plaza, where it becomes an intersection of different civic activities. The large open space can be used for activities done by the City Hall, such as mayoral announcements, flag ceremonies, and other city events. This also acts as the entrance to an elevated park to make room for a bazaar/market area underneath in the commercial zone. Up above, the structure acts as a transition space between the different commercial buildings, while making sure that it is porous enough to allow natural light below. Right across the bridge towards the mosque area is a religious park, filled with parasols that acts as shade for the pedestrians. The form of the parasols is inspired by the Islamic jali, which can be more appreciated from its shadows with the right lighting conditions. On the other residential zone is a market park, which can be utilized by the local residents. Instead of having winding walkways like the ones seen in other parts of the park, this one is more linear, with spaces on the side which can be used for different kinds of activities. Next is the agricultural park, with small greenhouses which will serve as the main food production that will supply the nearby markets in the area. Crossing the Pasig River once again, the Arcds Park now becomes part of a larger whole, rather than being a separate entity of the city. Here, the path becomes more of a trail rather than a walkway, where you can experience a dense forest in the heart of an urban city. The largest portion of the Radial Park is the area between the Metropolitan Theater and the City Hall. To give importance to civic buildings, much of this space was cleared out to create a cultural park, which can be a place to host cultural and art pieces. An amphitheater is placed in the middle, overlooking the Manila City Hall, which can be a good backdrop during shows and events.
After noticing the choke point in Antonio Villegas Street caused by the current LRT Central Station, we lifted it up to clear the street and instead connected it into the commercial building across the street. We also redesigned the station to make it blend with the cultural park. Its shape is offset from the pedestrian route, creating a shell-like structure that also resembles something like the Pearl of the Orient. The bend towards the east makes the structure shade its uses from the afternoon sun while opening it up in the morning. For the highway mounds, it was split into two separate areas since the north and southern side of the site had very different programs from each other. The south one is more focused as a transition space between the Cultural Park, City Hall, Intramuros, and the National Museum. Here, the connection between the four areas were considered in forming the mound.
The northern one is more focused on commercial and tourism, since it is near the hotel, the Agri-Tourism Tower, and the Metropolitan Theater. Since the area was largely occupied by highways and overpasses, it was decided to compress those highways and submerge them into the ground, while also creating a slightly elevated mound. Most of the commercial space will be underground, with only a small entrance above so that it may not be intrusive to the more important buildings. The commercial space will be connected to underground highways and will encourage more people to enjoy the park.
In our version of Manila based on Burnham's ideas, buildings were given importance by maintaining vistas from different parts of the site. This way, it makes the city more memorable while also promoting its culture and history. While parks and green spaces were increased by a significant amount, we were able to allot 87.41% of the total land area as leasable space. We imagine the city to be similar to how you feel in a theme park, wherein walking from one place to another offers you multiple activities to choose from, allowing you to be more adventurous with your commute. Every turn and every corner greets you with a sense of place different from the previous one. This city allows you to eat, play, work, learn, and be active, all the right reasons to grow old in this place. This experience, along with having intimate, open-minded spaces, is what makes it a human-centered city. In the book Cities for a Small Planet, Sir Richard Rogers explained that the disappearance of open-minded public spaces are not simply a cause for regret. It can generate dire social consequences, launching a spiral of decline.